Welcome to another edition of Ian Cameron's Football Frenzy right here on Pub Sports Radio, Thursday, August the 19th, and we are back for CFL Week 3, and looking forward to it. And NFL, of course, has a preseason slate, and looking forward to another edition of the show. It's been a good start to this show in terms of, we've brought some good shows. I wish the picks could be better, especially from my standpoint. It's been a real rough first 2 weeks, and I'm frustrated. I'm pissed off. I'm just going to come right out and say it. This is a league that I've destroyed for years from a betting standpoint. We've annihilated it. We've crushed it. And now I'm getting crushed the first 2 weeks. It's been tough. Like, I know the 2-year layoff was going to be a different type of handicap, something that, I was going to, be a little bit more cautious coming into the year. And I have been. That's been the good news. All the bets have been small so far because I did have those question marks. And it's been a kind of an upside down start where the teams with the coaching experience and the quarterbacks that have been around in the league for a long time, they're the teams that are struggling. And you're seeing these, teams that were just dreadful 2 years ago, like Ottawa, like Toronto, a couple of these teams that have been bad for a few years, playing better. And then the teams that have been good for years, like Calgary, our own Hamilton Ticats, and we'll get into them. Even though they're not playing and they're on a bye this week, you damn well better believe it. Damn well better believe it. We're going to get into the Ticats here this week and their problems. It's just been a little bit of a weird, different, oddball season so far in terms of the results so far. But the good news is it's a new week. And the nice thing about sports betting, and Sandy will agree because he's into this stuff as well. When you start a new day, you're 0-0. You forget the yesterday, you forget last week. You focus on the day ahead. And that's the thing. The sun always rises. You always wake up. It's a brand new day, and you can have better results ahead. So I'm looking forward to a good and hopefully profitable week 3 ahead here in the CFL this week. And we've had some nice guests. We've had Chris Getzlaff join the show in week 1. We had Steel City Steve, a really astute CFL bettor and football bettor last week. And this week we welcome in someone from my neck of the woods. We're both in the Hammer. We're both in the steel town of Canada, if you will, Hamilton. We're both Ticat fans. We both go to Ticat games. This man also played for the Hamilton Tiger Cats, albeit the lean years of Hamilton for the most part when he played there in the 2000s with your Charlie Taffs of the world as the head coach and Belfay and go on down the list. There were some tough years back then, but he was a good player for us on defense at the safety position, knows a thing or two about playing football, playing in the Canadian Football League. Very, very happy to welcome Sandy Beveridge as my special guest this week on Ian Cameron's Football Frenzy. Sandy, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Ian. I really appreciate you having me on here. Talk a little gambling, talk a little football, and I was some lean back when I was playing. So hopefully you're betting against it. No, it was against your heart.
Yeah, exactly. Let's do the Hamilton stuff first before we get into the games, because that's the fun stuff to talk about, to dissect this team. Look, there's no secret, a high level of expectations, very, very high level of expectations for the Ticats this year. A team that had an outstanding 15-3 regular season. The last time there was CFL football in 2019, got to the Grey Cup, even with Dane Evans at quarterback, backing up Masoli, coming in from Masoli, who got injured early in the year. He was magnificent until they ran into that Winnipeg defense, which also happened to do a number on them a couple of weeks ago in week 1 of the season. But still an outstanding year. I love the Orlando Steinauer hire the moment it happened for the Hamilton Tiger Cats. Let's not forget, a great player in the CFL and a good coach at the college level. He was a defensive coordinator briefly, Fresno State, and the defense turned around completely in just the 1 year he was there as the head coach, as the defensive coordinator with Fresno State college football, before he came back north to Hamilton to take the head coaching job when June Jones stepped down. And I thought it was a great hire. It was a great year 2 years ago. And this year, because they went to the Grey Cup, because Hamilton's hosting the Grey Cup, because there was not much change in the roster, continuity with the coaching staff, Steinauer, the head coach, Tommy Condell, the OC, Mark Washington, the DC, even Jeff Reinbold, the special teams coordinator. They didn't lose anybody on that coaching staff. There was a lot to like about Hamilton coming into this year. Grey Cup favorites for a reason. But show you how topsy-turvy and odd this season has been, Sandy. 2021, not been a good start for this team. 0-2, the line play, you win and lose games a lot in the trenches. And that's also why I tell people, Sandy, when you're betting and handicapping, don't fixate yourself on wide receivers and running backs all the time. It's nice to have the skill position talent, the shiny toys. You could have the beautiful looking car, with the shiny toys, aka the wide receivers and the running backs. But if that motor is not going to turn over and crank up for you, and it's not going to work. And when I say the motor, I mean the guts of the football team. And that's your offensive line and your defensive line. That's the trench play. And our trench play has been bad so far in 2 games for the Ticats, especially the offensive line. And you just got to hope now that at 0-2 to start the year, the bye week helps them shore up these issues all along that offensive line. And it's been tough. Riker Matthews was a good O-lineman for us. He's no longer here. Mike Filer retires in the offseason. Not only a good player on the O-line, but great in the community, something you were as well, Sandy, when you played here. You're very good in the community as well here in Hamilton, doing off-field stuff for the city. We'll miss him, and they have missed him this year on the field. There's guys playing different positions. I like Sirocco, but he's playing a position he's never played before on that O-line. There's guys playing left tackle. There's guys shifting over to the right side of the line. I mean, it's just a mishmash. And Orlando Steinauer's tinkering, Tommy Condell's tinkering with this O-line, just trying to see what pieces fit. And so far, nothing's fit. Nothing is gelled. They've been absolutely not been able to open up holes for the run game. They've not been able to pass protect for either Masoli or Evans. It's been tough. And I think that's the area where they've got to improve now. The question is, can they use this bye week to improve? You better believe if I hear good reports from Hamilton out of their bye week, Sandy, I'm going to be tempted to back them because the betting markets and the power rating is going to drop on Hamilton after the 0-2 start. And you might be able to get value in the point spread with them in a favorable spot coming off a bye week, extra time to prepare for that game next week. But obviously, there's some issues. Look, Brandon Banks, damn you, TSN. Damn you to hell right now, because you made this guy the number 1 player in the CFL. You voted him that, or you coming into the year, top 50 players. Brandon Banks was number 1. And I said, watch this. I hope this is not a curse to him. And so far, it's looked that way. I mean, he's dropping passes. He's fumbling the football. It doesn't look like the Brandon Banks of the MOP of 2 years ago in 2019. So he's got to be a little bit better. There's just a lot of issues. I think the defense has actually been okay. But when the offense is going 2-and-out punt, 2-and-out punt, 2-and-out punt, no defense is going to be able to stay on the field long. And they're going to wear down at the end of games. And we saw that against Winnipeg, and we saw that against Saskatchewan last week. So we got issues with this 0-2 team. I'm not ready to – I don't want to go back there, Sandy. I know you played for the Ticats. There's some tough years there. Yeah. I don't want to go back to that era, man. I'm not ready for it. I'm not going there. No, I'm not going to this, 4-12 season like we did many times in the year 2000s there. I'm not ready for that. We've been a good team for years. I'm not ready to go back to the horror show of us being a bottom feeder again. Figure this shit out, Hamilton. I'm still behind you. The TC, the mascot behind me, Hamilton proud. We're hanging tough with you guys. It's a long season ahead, but man, we better figure some things out. Sandy, what's your thoughts on our wounded Ticats after the first 2 games?
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with you. Super high expectations into this year, coming off of, the Grey Cup run in 2019, in which, everyone probably would have said we should have won that game if it was played on paper prior to the game. But obviously in that game, the Winnipeg's defense showed up in spades. They played fantastic defense, and they were all over us. Kind of similar to what they did to us in week 1 of this year. Obviously, there's still some issues there, and that game plan that in the Grey Cup still worked in week 1. But I would say, like, the biggest thing for us is it's a long season still for Hamilton. They had some injuries coming into that game. Ted Laurent wasn't playing on the D line at D tackle. He's obviously a huge key player for us in stopping the run. They ran for like 120 yards on us in that first game from an unknown running back as Harris was out. And then we lacked a little bit of pass rush off the edge on the D line as well. That hurt us. And we couldn't stop their pass rush once again. But Van Ziel was out in week 1. He was back in week 2. We're getting there. What I would say is I think it's a long, long season. And everyone always says the season starts after Labor Day. Well, this year Labor Day comes a lot quicker in a shortened season. So Labor Day is coming up real fast, and they're going to have to get their stuff together for sure. There's no doubt about that. But The other thing is the scheduling wasn't great to them. I think Hamilton played the two best teams in the league in weeks 1 and 2. I think Winnipeg and Saskatchewan could be the cream of the crop in this league for this season, and they got them right out of the gate. They got them on the road. They weren't at home. They're traveling, and not to make excuses. I mean, if you want to win the Grey Cup, you got to beat the best teams. But I would just say that don't hit the panic button just yet with the Tiger Cat team. They haven't played anyone out east yet. I don't think they're the best team out there, and they might have just ran into the two best teams in the league that were maybe a little bit ready for the season to start than they were.
Yeah, of course. I agree with you there. It's too. I'm concerned. I'm not panicked. I'm not saying, "Oh, the season's over." And there's already some
Yeah.
people like, "Calm down, man." Some friends of mine that just lose their shit over just a couple of losses. It's like, calm down. Pump the brakes, will you? I mean, come on. Be sensible. Be reasonable. Don't say stuff like, "Oh, season's over" after an 0-2 start. I mean, it's just there's some people that are just a little bit more high strung and emotional. Like I am too, but I'm a little bit more level-headed where I know I've watched football for 35 years now. I have bet football now for 10 or 15 of those years. I see the ups and downs of a season. I see teams that stink in the first month of the season just all of a sudden get red hot in the final month, Sandy, and then into the playoffs. Look out when they get hot down the stretch of the regular season, and then in the playoffs it carries over. They make a run. That's kind of what happened to Winnipeg, 2
Yeah,
years ago. To be
absolutely.
honest, they were up and down. Yeah, they were
Well,
up
when
and down
Colaros
much of
came
the
in
year.
there, kind of they went on that run, and you get hot at the right time, and
Yep.
I love the passion of the fans. It's what you love. It's what makes playing so great. When you're winning, it's fantastic. When you're losing, I mean, then you just got to bear the brunt of it. That's just part of the package, right?
That's the part of the package of a passionate fan base. And to me, Hamilton's right there with Winnipeg, right there. Saskatchewan's number one. Saskatchewan's number one fan base, number one home field advantage in the CFL. There's no question. They are nuts there. They're, I think, loaded before the game even begins. Most of them, watermelons on their heads. I
Yeah,
mean, it's just a sea of green there. I mean, it's an unbelievable atmosphere. Nothing can touch that. We're close in Hamilton. I think we're number 2 or number 3 in the league when it comes to home field advantage. We're close. We're good, but we're not
I agree.
Saskatchewan. And I don't think anybody is.
Well, you have to be drunk before the game to put a watermelon on your head, right? I would
Right,
assume.
exactly. I think I could be drunk before the game and I still would maybe pass on the watermelon on the head, but that's just me. I don't know if there's any level of me being in a drunken stupor that would make me put a watermelon on my head because I'm not a hat guy. I've just not been someone that wears a lot of hats, even
Well,
ball
not
caps.
not
It's
with
just
hair
I
like that.
pass.
You got hair that good. Why cover it up, right?
That's what everybody says, man. I appreciate that. I don't know. It's a lot of product though. That's the problem. I run through product very quickly on this hair of mine. But
Beautiful.
man. Nevertheless, let's turn our attention now to week 4. I mean, enough Ticat Radio, Ticats radio network here
Yeah.
on the Ian Cameron Football Frenzy. We'll turn our attention to this week's games, see if we can find some betting advantages here. We'll start with the game tonight to kick off week 3, the Edmonton Elks and the BC Lions. We've got BC 3.5-point home favorites here, 46.5 the total in most places for this game. This is a fascinating one because this is handicapping 101 says a team that's covered twice as underdogs won one of the games outright. Now in
Mhm.
week 3, they're favored. That means you bet against them, right? Because now they're overvalued. That could be the case maybe with BC here. But in terms of disappointments, and I've talked about how I'm frustrated by my Ticats, I'm frustrated by Edmonton. Like I've picked a Hamilton Edmonton Grey Cup,
Okay.
and they're 0-2, both
They
of
look
them.
terrible.
And they look terrible. And for the Edmonton Elks, I'm trying to figure this out, man. Because Sandy, I'm flabbergasted with what I've seen from Edmonton. This offense on paper, the talent that they are loaded at the skill positions. They are loaded. They're supposed to bring back a very good offensive line
Yeah.
this year as well. They've got Darrell Walker, Armani Edwards, Mike Jones, our former receiver here with the Ticats. Mike Jones is now with them, a good receiver. I thought it was a good
Yeah.
pickup. And, of course, Greg Ellingson,
Yeah.
who's been a terrific receiver, always kills the Cats ever since we got rid of him, which was a stupid decision, by the way.
Agreed.
And he's made us pay the price ever since he was with Ottawa and Edmonton now. And Greg Ellington's got like one catch this year, by the way, one or two at the most. Like he's been invisible. We haven't noticed him out there. And Trevor Harris, look, I like the guy. I've talked to him before. This is a guy that I really want to see succeed here in the CFL. And it's been a rough start. He's got to be better, plain and simple. I mean, he's made bad decisions with the football. This team has had these moments in games where they've had 4 or 5 consecutive drives 2 and out. But then they also, Sandy, have those moments where they do move the football. They get it into opposing territory, and then they stub their toe and they shoot themselves in the foot. They miss a field goal, they turn it over. They're 3rd and 1, 3rd and inches, short yardage play has been atrocious this year. They've been stopped on 3rd down in each of the first 2 games on 3rd and 1 plays. It's just a ton of issues right now, and it's hard to wrap your head around why this offense is struggling so much. I basically hitched my wagon to Edmonton before the year, and they've bitterly disappointed me. So I'm definitely a little bit gun shy of coming back to them here. But I'm going to. It's going to be very, very light opinion. But I think getting over a field goal with Edmonton, maybe getting on the road is going to help them a little bit too. They played the first 2 games there in Edmonton, and to be honest, the crowd, the amount of people at the games were disappointing. Very disappointing in Edmonton. So maybe they just need to get out of there. It's not like BC has a good home field advantage. BC Place is always barely a quarter capacity for many of their games 2 years ago. Now I know they have a new owner. They're going to hope things change. As far as the Lions are concerned, Michael Riley, as he's called now, was very good last week in the victory against Calgary. He's expected to be the starter. We don't think we're going to see quarterback shenanigans for BC this week. We expect him to be the starter. The defense has been better. The O-line's been shockingly, significantly better, Sandy. That was the huge problem BC had 2 years ago, but they've managed to protect Riley. Brian Burnham leading a very, very good wide receiving core. So I also think we could see some points. Look, it's been under Palooza so far, and I've been on some unders in the first 2 weeks. A lot of unders. But now the totals continue to be priced lower and lower and lower by the odds makers. I think you go 2-2 at worst, maybe even 3-1 to the over this week. I think this is the week where scoring picks up a little bit. So I like Edmonton plus the points, and I like over the total. Again, not a good first 2 weeks for me in this league, but that's what I'm going with. And I do feel good about some of these games this week. So for me, it's Edmonton and over the total. Sandy, what do you like here? Elks and Lions.
Well, like you said, Edmonton has been a huge disappointment, really struggling to score at all in both games so far. And then you look at BC, it's who's playing, who's on the depth chart, who knows? Are they listing Matt Dunnigan as a starter this week, or and then bring someone out from the stands to start the game? Who knows, right? So week 1, Mike Riley looked terrible. I was like, oh my God, like his elbow might be done. Like, I don't know if he's ever going to be able to play again. And then week 2, he comes out and he rolls out the one way and throws that bomb to Burnham on the complete opposite side of the field. And I go, oh, I guess he's back. So I don't know what's going on there with Riley and injuries, but there's no way I can get on the Elks this week with the way that that offense is shown in the first 2 weeks. You're going to have to show me something before I go with put any money on Edmonton. So I definitely would be on the Lions at -3.5. I'll take that. And based on the same reasons why I won't bet on Edmonton to win the game, I won't take the over either. I mean,
there we go.
Mustered any points.
Guaranteed winner on the show.
Yeah, so I'm taking the exact opposite of you. So we'll see.
There we go. That's not the worst decision after the first 2 weeks, but yeah, we'll see how this goes. So there you go. Guaranteed winners right here on Ian Cameron's Football Frenzy in this first game. Something's going to win. BC under for Sandy, and for me, Edmonton over. So we're going to see how this one goes. Maybe this team's just going to be bad. Maybe we've just completely whiffed on what this team was capable of. But this is kind of like that last stand here, because now the first 2 games they were favored, they lost them outright, and now here we go. They're underdogs. This is a different point spread range. You got to think there's urgency kicking in for Edmonton here tonight. That's why I think there's some appeal to them catching points, catching more than a field goal in this game. But am I just ripping with confidence, brimming with confidence right now? that this offense is going to find it tonight? No, because you're right. I haven't seen it yet from them. So
I
that's
do
the
agree
conundrum
with the.
about this game.
I agree that the overs have got to start hitting though. Like there is value there. It's coming. The numbers are far too low for a typical CFL season.
Yeah, absolutely it is here. And like I say, I think with a lot of these totals, mid 40s, the Winnipeg Toronto total opened 42. We'll get to that game in a sec, but now it's finally been bet up to like 45. So people just saying 42 is just way too low at that point. I've never seen a CFL total that low in my life, 42.
No.
So I think that's what they saw, is that we just a little bit too low putting that number where they did, even though Winnipeg's arguably the best defense in the CFL. That's part of it, why the total was that low. But I think they realized, hey, a lot of the bettors that, hey, that the 42, even with Winnipeg's good defense, 42 for a CFL total, just a little bit too low. Next up, we've got the Friday night football tonight. Montreal, Calgary on Friday night at McMahon Stadium. Man, there's a lot to unpack when it comes to this game. Montreal was -1 early in the week. Now they're 3.5 point road favorites in this game, 45.5 the total. Calgary, another one, like a Hamilton, like an Edmonton, teams that I expected. I don't know about if I expected Calgary to be as good as they've been recently, but it's been a rough struggle for them this year. Look, they lost a lot on defense. The O-line's not as good. The O-line's been bad. There's another team with O-line problems, Sandy. It's Calgary. I mean, they've let Bo Levi Mitchell take too many hits. That hit he took against Toronto, that's the hit that's basically prompted this injury that he's never really been 100% through, including the game last week against BC. And now all of a sudden we hear broken leg. He's out for 6 games at least for the Calgary Stampeders. And now here we are all week long thinking the one positive for Calgary is we're going to get to see a Canadian quarterback under center on Friday night in Michael O'Connor, the UBC product. We thought we were going to see him starting Friday night.
Yeah.
He's getting most of the practice reps throughout the week. Now, I'm not there. I'm not seeing it from my own 2 eyes, but everybody there said he got most of the practice reps. Bo Levi Mitchell, who's going to be out for a while, saying he's got some young Ricky Ray in him, which is high praise, talking about Michael O'Connor. He's getting most of the reps. And then all of a sudden we hear just this morning that it's not going to be Michael O'Connor starting at quarterback in this game for Calgary. It's going to be Jake Meyer instead, who played college football at the FCS level with Cal Davis, UC Davis, a few years ago. Now, good numbers there at college. Was a really good player because I did some looking into it. He has great stats there. But again, FCS football, Canadian football, throwing into the fire in your first start. It's a totally different style of football, Sandy. You know that. I know that. I don't know if they've set this guy up to succeed right away. And if I'm Calgary, or the way I feel about Calgary, I posted this on Twitter earlier. I think this is a disgrace what they've done to Michael O'Connor. I mean, okay, maybe you think Jake Meyer's the guy, but why are you starting him? Why are you giving him the belief? Why are you putting all the practice reps in his hands and on his arm, and then you're going to pull the plug on him like this and not start him all of a sudden? I don't like the move. I'm not impressed by it one bit. I think he's getting screwed over, to be honest with you, Michael O'Connor, going into this game. I thought he deserved the first shot. Yeah, then if he struggles Friday night during the game or they lose the game and he plays poorly, then you can go to Meyer maybe the next game. But I think with the way they built it up this week, Sandy, they should have given Michael O'Connor the first start, in my opinion. I think Dave Dickinson's kind of losing it a little bit mentally. I've not been impressed with his coaching this year. He's made bad decisions to challenge, bad decisions to kick field goals instead of go for it on 3rd and 4 or 3rd and short late in the game like they did last week against BC. I'm not impressed by this Calgary team right now. I'd only look Montreal here. You're not getting a bargain at all because now they're laying a field goal on the road in Calgary. But Montreal's the only side I could bet here. They're playing well. Vernon Adams has been outstanding. The defense looks much better. I'll tell you what, they've got a pass rush. They got after Harris last week in the win against Edmonton, and this shaky O-line could be in trouble with that. A lot of new faces, a lot of younger players on that defense, but clearly they've got talent, especially up front along the defensive line. They showed it last week. I think they win this football game, and I think they can win it by upwards of a touchdown. So I like Montreal here Friday night. Sandy, what do you think? Owls and Stamps.
Yeah, you're not going to get an argument here from me over how they've treated Michael O'Connor. I'm a UBC alumni myself, so I wanted to see him up there playing this week. So to give him the reps and for all the articles to be written that he was going to be playing, and then just pull the rug out from under him at the last minute. I think everyone in the locker room is going to recognize this too. They're not going to respect that decision too much either. Yeah, it's just I don't know what they're doing there with it in that regard. If your backup last week was O'Connor, then why isn't he starting this week when your starter's out? And if Bo Levi's throwing 4 picks and running for his life, I don't like Meyer's chances either. I'm definitely going to be going with Montreal. I like a lot of what Verdon Adams Jr. has been doing there with regards to taking the leadership role. You see a lot of stuff online where he was bringing his guys together during the COVID shutdown, and they're running routes, they're building some chemistry. He's really done a tremendous job in taking a leadership role there out in Montreal, and I'll take him on the road in 3 points. Yeah, -3. That's no issue to me, especially the way Calgary's been playing.
I hope this backfires on Calgary, and it's not just because I'm going to be back in Montreal in this game, but I hope this backfires on them. This is pathetic that they're doing this, in my opinion, to Michael O'Connor. Now, put your former player hat on for a second, Sandman.
Yep.
When you talk about this Calgary team, is this a backlash effect that maybe, whoa, Michael O'Connor, this young kid, he's working hard in practice. We think he's going to be the guy now with Bo out, and now all of a sudden he's not, and they go to this other guy. Is there head scratching? Is there, whoa, all of a sudden now maybe we're unsure of ourselves on the field Friday night. We don't play as well, not as hard. They're going to play hard. Nobody quits,
Yep.
but is there a question mark? Is there just some in the pit of your gut? Is there these players in that Calgary locker room right now saying, what's going on here? I mean, this kid's been with us probably longer than Meyer's been getting the practice reps, and now he's not going to start on Friday. You can't tell me some players are just flabbergasted and stunned by this decision.
Yeah, it's tough to say without being in the room, but yeah, absolutely. Like, there's definitely camaraderie you build with guys that are there longer, and if they're doing all the things the right way, you kind of look forward to seeing them getting their opportunity. And I would say that with the way that Bo Levi talked about Michael this week, it seemed as though he anticipated he was going to be playing as well. He pumped his tires a little bit, said how well he's been doing. So you got to think that's kind of the feeling in the locker room overall. So yeah, I mean, to all of a sudden at the last moment do this, is it shocking? No, not really. I think a lot of times the Canadian player gets shuffled to the back of the line when they want to play an American instead. It's not uncommon. It's happened numerous times where you're the backup
Yep.
until the starter goes down, and then you're not the starter anymore, right? So it's worked like this for years. I'm not shocked. I'm disappointed. I really wanted to see him play. You see Nathan Rourke getting some opportunities in BC when Riley goes down. It would be nice to see O'Connor get some opportunities in Calgary with Levi going down, but it is what it is, and well, we're going to find out how the team responds and how they rally around Meyer there, and let's see if he's not playing well, are they going to give O'Connor an opportunity? Is it going to be a short leash for him or not? Time will tell.
Yeah, time will tell. I mean, if it's an ugly start, if they have a really rough first half, Jake Meyer has a really rough first half, and there's a chance you might see O'Connor definitely in the second half to try to spark the team. I find CFL head coaches are more likely to switch quarterbacks more often and early than NFL, for instance. I find there's a big difference there. Like, for instance, we saw what Orlando did in Saskatchewan last week. Things weren't going well with Masoli, and eventually went to Dane Evans in the third quarter, although, again, that was not a quarterback issue with Hamilton in that game. That was a offensive line problem. Nobody was going to be able to step back in the pocket, have time, fire the football down the field, and find open receivers. And it's just fascinating that I hear, and we get a lot of great Ticat coverage, locally here. Now they've got this new Ticats audio network. A lot of good former players part of that. Mike Moriali, Luke Tasker, who just retired, Andy Fantuz, CFL legend with Saskatchewan and Hamilton, just got inducted, by the way, into the Riders Wall of Fame, Hall of Fame, whatever you want to call it. So well deserved for him. And he did make a good point. They got to throw over the middle of the field more, Hamilton, moving forward. But my counter argument to that is, I know he's the player, I'm not. Yeah, you'd like to throw the ball over the middle of the field more, Sandy. But if you don't have time to throw the football, those routes can't develop. Those routes can't develop. You need time. You need a good 5, 6, 7 seconds for the route to develop, to get that opening in the middle of the field. And that's the issue with the Cats offensive line. You could say that with Edmonton. You could say it with every team that's had O-line issues so far this year. You need time for those routes over the middle of the field to develop. And half of these O-lines aren't giving the quarterback enough time to let those routes develop. That's the problem.
I totally agree with you in that regard. Yeah. And well, running the ball would also assist in that. If you're able to run the ball, make them respect it, slow them down a little bit, that gives you a little bit more time too. But well, Hamilton hasn't been able to run the football yet this year, and there's been a few other teams that have been struggling in that regard too. So I mean, that sets up your play action. That lets you be able to get those routes over the middle, right? Suck the linebackers up a
Yeah.
little bit more, put them over the top in between the two here. So
Yeah, and before we go to the Saturday games, one last point I want to make about Montreal, because we talked too much about Calgary, not enough about and all what they lost. They lost Rogers and Brescison, of course. The wide receiving core isn't as deep. I like Hergy Mayala. He's pretty
yeah,
good. Ricky Sindani's going to be a solid. Of course, Josh Huff. They got some good receivers still, but I think they still miss Rogers and Brescison, those two guys. But Montreal deserves to be talked about a little, Sandy. I mean, Vernon Adams looks good. Dual threat quarterback, can make incredible throws on the move. I find when he gets out of the pocket, his accuracy is incredible. Look at the throw he made to Jake Weineke last week. The incredible catch he made down at the goal line, got up because he was not tackled and got the touchdown. Is very accurate, mobile quarterback. With Weineke showing that he might be a big-time receiver with that catch last week moving forward. He's just a young guy. He's probably only going to get better. And then you've got Eugene Lewis, who's already outstanding. BJ Cunningham. You've got a good running back and William Stanback. That's a good offense. And Kahari Jones has breathed life into that team again because they made these terrible hires. Mike Sherman couldn't coach CFL football, out of his element. The other guy, Dan Hawkins, years ago for Montreal, totally out of his element. A guy that came from the States thinking he's going to have this big-time
yeah.
success in the CFL, and it was a nightmare. Now they've got a guy that knows the Canadian Football League. Players respect him. Kahari Jones done a great job in just a year and a bit with that Montreal team. What do you think of those Alouettes just overall, Sandy?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and you just touched on it with Kahari Jones being the head coach there. I can't say enough good things about Kahari. I got the opportunity to play with him a little bit here in Hamilton, and just such a leader in the locker room. And whether he was starting or backing up at the time, like he just came in there with such a professional attitude. He was positive all the time. Just that true leader that you want out of a quarterback, and that just transitions straight to the head coaching job. Him working with Vernon Adams. Vernon Adams is really taken a giant step forward, I think, as far as being a top level quarterback in this league and what he's been able to do. And I think that's a direct relation to Kahari and what he's helped him do and working together, the two of them. That is a fantastic duo there with a great head coach and a fantastic up and coming young quarterback. And the leadership role he's taken on there with getting those guys together. Like I said, in the offseason, you see the pictures of them on the internet and on social media that they're running routes together. And BJ Cunningham, I mean, he's had a couple great games or one good game so far to start the season, and I expect him to have another one this week.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Thanks for the kind words in our chat, by the way, YouTube chat, Big Smooth. Truly exceptional to have vast knowledge in multiple sports. I thank you. Much appreciated, sir. I appreciate that. Very, very kind words. Very much. I'll tell you what, it takes a shit ton of hours for me to handicap all these sports, especially at this time of year. NFL, college football starting, CFL's going. Wait till hockey and basketball arrive. November is the convergence month for me, Sandy, in my career.
Yeah.
November is when there's still a little CFL, there's NFL, there's college football weekly, NBA's going, NHL's going, college basketball is just about to start. That's the month where I'm running on no sleep, like Jerry. When Jerry ends up acting like Kramer and Seinfeld, they flip roles because of the chicken place, and he's like, "I'm running on no sleep, no sleep," and that's me in the month of November with this career. I mean, when all the sports converge in that month, it is hectic.
But you love it, right? That's what you live for.
I love it though. It's better than an office job. Better than an office job or construction or something else. I'll say that 100% true. All right, let's go to Saturday. What I love right now is the way the Winnipeg Blue Bombers are playing as they take on the Toronto Argonauts. Yeah, you'll find out, Sandy, if we'll probably do some more shows throughout the year. I'm the king of the segue. I really try to nail the segues. So there you go. Winnipeg and Toronto. We've got the Bombers here. I'm losing track of what's going on with this line here because I saw Winnipeg -5 at a few books yesterday, and then the number got taken down at most books, and now it's reopened, and it's 3.5 now with
Yeah, I
Winnipeg
saw it around three and a
as
half as
road
well.
favorites.
Yeah, 3.5.
Yeah, that's what I see. Yeah. Yeah,
It's
that's what I see
confusing to
right
me.
now is Winnipeg 3.5 here and 45.5 the total in this game. Kind of disappointed I'm not getting as much of a number with Toronto now because that's the lean for me here in this game, the Argos. I haven't bet it yet. I'm trying
Yeah,
and look, this is the proof that you need right here that when it comes to the betting side of things for me, there's no bias. There's no, homerism. There's none of that. You think I want to put money and root for the Toronto Argonauts to win a football game? Hell to the no. Any Ticat fan will tell you that. But there are some things to like about Toronto in terms of what Pinball Clemens has put together a nice roster. I'll give him that. Like it's a totally revamped roster from 2 years ago, but there's big time players on both sides of the ball. Charleston Hughes, Cordero Law, just among a few on defense. The defensive line's been improved. The secondary, they brought in a lot of good players to shore up the pass defense. When you look at the offensive side of the football, the weapons that they brought in, especially the two guys from Calgary we mentioned, Rogers and Brescison. Ricky Collins has been good at the receiver spot in the first two games for Toronto. They think they got something in this kid that played, I remember him at Western Michigan, Mac College football. Tells you how well-versed I am because I'm who's Daniel Braverman? I remember watching that guy, Western Michigan Broncos a few years ago, and he was a good receiver there, and he's been good for the Argos in the first two games. So there's a lot to like. This is one of those back-to-back spots where it's same two teams played each other last week. Winnipeg got the win. Winnipeg didn't blow them out, though. They probably should have because Toronto kept hanging around, but at the end of the day, it was only a 20-7 victory for the Winnipeg Blue Bombers last week. The offense is still, and I like Zach Collaros. He's actually one of those people where if he beats the Ticats, and he's done that twice now, usually when the former player that was on my team beats my team, I'm pissed. I'm livid. I'm like, fuck, man. Fuck. I'm just going nuts. I'm just really, really upset. And it bothers me because we used to have this guy and now he's beating my team. And I don't like that. Usually I hate it when Ellingson is always beating us the last few years with Ottawa. And then, of course, when he moved to Edmonton. But when it comes to Collaros, I'm actually happy for him, and I don't get as angry because it was just a victim of circumstance here. He had the tough injury. Had tough time staying on the field. Hamilton had to kind of get to the point where they had to kind of shift away and move in a different direction at the quarterback spot, and that's why they did what they did. But and again, he had some injury issues as well in Saskatchewan. But then again, now he's been at Winnipeg. And he has stayed healthy and he's played good, and I'm happy for him because he deserves that chance. And when he's healthy, he can still be a really good quarterback. As far as this game goes, though, situationally, Sandy, there's things to like for Toronto, too. It's their home opener. They lost to Winnipeg the first time around. They've actually played very well against the Bombers here, better against the Bombers in Toronto in recent years than in Winnipeg. And I like that Ryan Dinwiddie is committed to Nick Arbuckle, because I think a big reason why they lost this game against Winnipeg was McLeod Bethel Thompson, with all due respect, reverted into McLeod Bethel Thompson again in that game last week for the Argos. He's a middling quarterback. He had a decent first game against Calgary, which now doesn't look as impressive with how Calgary struggled. And then he just got eaten alive by Winnipeg's defense. And when you're dealing with Willie Jefferson and Jackson Jeffcoat, Sandy, and that D-line, which is beyond good, and Adam Bighill, an elite linebacker, just a great front seven, you need a quarterback that can move around. You need a quarterback that can scramble, can make plays when the pocket collapses. Nick Arbuckle can do that much better than McLeod Bethel Thompson can. So, and he's the future at quarterback for the Argos, at least a more likely option to be the future, not McLeod Bethel Thompson. So I like the move to make Nick Arbuckle the starter now that he's healthy here on Saturday. I'm leaning Argos, and just because the total was so low initially, I already bet over. When I saw that 42, I bet it right away. I'm like, that's just too low. And the games in Toronto have gone over the total. Bombers and Argos in Winnipeg, not always high scoring, but Bombers in Toronto have always been higher scoring games. And believe it or not, the series is still 8-1 to the over between these two teams in their last 9 head-to-head meetings between Toronto and Winnipeg. 8-1 to the over in the last 9 head-to-head meetings. So I lean to the Argos. We'll see where the line goes. I would certainly only bet it if it stays above +3 on Toronto, but I like the over as well at the current number. Sandy, what do you think here? Blue Bombers, Argos for the second week in a row.
Yeah, 2 weeks in a row, and I mean, I I think the right move. It's hard to say something positive about the Argos, being myself, but I think Arbuckle is the right decision for them. But I don't want to pump their tires too much. That being said, I don't put too much stock in the home opener for Toronto. I mean, every game that's played there is basically a neutral field, unless they're playing against Hamilton. Then it's just another Hamilton home game. So anything in
Yeah.
Toronto is the fans are irrelevant. It's hard to put any stock into that. But the way that Winnipeg defense has been playing, I just absolutely fantastic. I mean, they haven't let a team get into double digits yet in the first 2 games. I think 13 points total in 2 games for a defense in the CFL. That's outstanding. So based on that defense alone, I'm going to side with Winnipeg. 3.5 points. I mean, if you're not the team score 10 points, it doesn't take much to cover a spread. So maybe some late points by Toronto. I'm going to go with the over as well in this game. I do think that there will be more points than there was last week. But I think Winnipeg gets out. I think they get the lead and a little backdoor over action when Toronto pulls it together later on in the game. Arbuckle is going to probably put up a few more points than Bethel Thompson did. So, yeah, I'll go with Winnipeg minus the points, and I'll take the over as well.
Yeah, I mean, it wouldn't surprise me to see the same pathetic amount of people in the crowd for a Toronto Argonauts home game, because I've been to BMO Field for a bunch of games with the Ticats there, and even just games without the Ticats, and I've still
Yeah.
gone to BMO Field for a game or two,
Yeah.
and the crowds are awful. I mean, it's a barely half capacity. There's no level of noise that comes anywhere close to Tim Hortons Field or any place out west for the most part, especially Winnipeg, Saskatchewan. Hell, Montreal, even they get it loud, for their
Yeah.
home games, especially when Montreal's good.
Oh,
That
yeah.
can be a really, really good home field edge as well, Montreal. So even Ottawa's got a much better home field than Toronto in terms of
Absolutely.
crowd support, atmosphere, all of that. The one thing I'm going to give them a chance to show on Saturday that maybe there's more people interested in the seats on Saturday. And the reason for that is pinball. Pinball, the marketing has really gone overboard for the Argos. Obviously, there's restrictions. There's going to be restrictions. But even with the COVID-19 capacity restrictions, in Ontario, you could still maybe get a better crowd, even with the COVID restriction capacity than you did 2 years ago, where you barely got anybody in the crowd for their home games. So going to be interesting to see,
Yeah.
Pinball's is working certainly well on the field to fix the roster, make it a more talented team. He's done that, but he's also working hard to really market the team, push for support. Come on out to the
Yeah.
game, bring your family, bring your wife, bring your kids, and get that kind of atmosphere going. We'll see if it pays off and if it leads to better attendance figures starting on
Yeah.
Saturday. But still a
Absolutely.
big if.
And traditionally, this is the time of year when they usually do get a good crowd out, because when the CNEs go, the CNE on the exhibition grounds there's in a bunch of extra people. Traditionally, at these last couple of weeks of August, you get a bigger crowd at BMO Field because it's right there and there's so many people there, and it's rocking and rolling. And that's kind of unfortunate for this year. It's been canceled due to COVID, so they won't get that kind of uptick.
All right, we've got the Ottawa Red Blacks and the Saskatchewan Roughriders. This is the final game on the Week 3 CFL slate. Saturday night action here. We've got Saskatchewan 10.5, 11-point home favorites, 46.5 the total. Well, Hamilton starting every game for the month of August on the road. Must be nice to have Saskatchewan's little cushy little schedule. Nice to have be able to get off to a nice start here. Have every game at home to begin the year. Must be nice. But
Sold out
look, I'm
stadium.
not. Yeah, exactly. No COVID restrictions whatsoever on the capacity of the crowd. It's a full house there in Saskatchewan. A little bit more relaxed in terms of the restrictions there compared to some other provinces here in Canada. And as a result, the atmosphere has been incredible. This is a tough one for me. It's a lot of points to lay. It's always in the CFL, especially because there's so much parity. Sandy, you know this you know this very well too. That there's so much parity. It's not always easy to lay double digits with the favorite in any game. And in this spot, especially, because you look at the first 2 games, they play a divisional foe, BC. They're excited for that game. Divisional foe, first game of the year. They play well. They absolutely beat the brakes off BC in the first half. It was a bad spot for Nate Rourke to be in. And then Riley shockingly plays the second half. And I think they took advantage of a Saskatchewan team that turned the switch off, kind of fell asleep in the second half, and they had to hang on for the win in a backdoor point spread cover for the BC Lions in that first game against Saskatchewan. You got to love those when you're on the right side of them, for sure. And then last week, they're obviously fired up for Hamilton, a team that's expected to be a Grey Cup contender. And they always play well against Hamilton in Saskatchewan, and they did once again last week. But now this is more of a mental battle than on the field. On the field, they're better than Ottawa, for sure. There's no doubt about that. But the mental battle is you played BC, you were stoked for the game. You played Hamilton, max intensity, full focus. Now you got lowly Ottawa, the worst team in the CFL 2 years ago. And is it lethargic? Is it a sleepwalk maybe type of game for Saskatchewan? I worry about that, just the mental side of it creeping into Saskatchewan. 2-0, everybody's singing their praises. And now here's Ottawa that could, maybe take advantage of just a little bit of a lethargic Saskatchewan. I just feel lethargic is the word that I worry about for Saskatchewan, that they're just not as sharp this week against, a team that may not excite them as much as BC or Hamilton in the first 2 weeks. Ottawa, though, I don't know if I trust them enough to back them. I think if I were to bet this game, Sandy, from a side perspective, it would be Ottawa or pass, given the number of points they're getting. But I don't know if I trust Ottawa enough. I know they beat Edmonton in week 1, but that was all Edmonton's offense shooting themselves in the foot. That was all turnovers by Edmonton, including a dagger pick 6 that bounced off the receiver's hands right into Abdul Kenna, who returned it for a pick 6 for Ottawa, which sealed the deal. The offense did nothing. And Matt Nichols looked terrible in that game. And I don't know if he was 100% because he was battling an injury going into that first game against Edmonton. Hopefully the bye week, because they didn't play. Ottawa's the one team that didn't play last week. Hopefully the bye week helps him, heal up a little bit, get a little bit better. And we'll see. But I was not at all impressed with anything I saw to Matt Nichols. He was short-arming the football. None of the passes were accurate. He was skipping the ball into the turf, way too many times. Matt Nichols in that game. But they stole that game against Edmonton because of the defense, which was just outstanding. That defense could be pretty solid. But to go into Saskatchewan, who could match you defensively, because I like their defense a lot. Gainey and Marshall are an outstanding cornerback duo for Saskatchewan, as good as it gets. Defensive line can get pressure. Matt Nichols isn't the most mobile quarterback. He's going to have to put up some points here if Ottawa's going to stay in this game. And I don't know if I saw enough in week 1 to trust Ottawa's defense, even with the bye week and extra time to prepare here, Sandy, on the road against a good Saskatchewan defense. So I lean Ottawa with the number of points they're getting. I don't trust Saskatchewan as this big of a favorite in this spot, but I just lean Ottawa for now. I don't know if I will pull the trigger on the Red Blacks here, plus the 10.5, 11. And this is the game I would look toward under this week. If I were to bet one under, it probably would be this game between Ottawa and Saskatchewan. It's one of the higher totals as well, 46.5, 47. I think this game could be a little bit lower scoring as well. Going to be interesting to see, though. The one thing that gives Ottawa a puncher's chance in this game, the bye week, extra time to prepare, and a pretty good head coach in Paul LaPolice. As I always like to say, whoop, whoop, that's the sound of LaPolice. Whoop, whoop, that's the sound of the beast. A little rap and hip-hop there for you from back in the day, KRS-One. I do that every time, Sandy, when I mention Paul LaPolice. It is, and I always enjoy it. What do you think, Ottawa, Saskatchewan, Sandy?
I'm kind of the same way on this game. There's no way I would put money on Ottawa, but the number is high, right? So, I don't feel totally confident in Saskatchewan covering double digits as well. But I mean, Ottawa did get the win. They're 1-0. It's kind of a mirage. They beat Edmonton. What's Edmonton currently? Who did they really beat? Who knows? You'd look at the stats and the box score. I mean, Ottawa didn't even put up 200 yards of offense. So how do you bet on that? I mean, you're going against Saskatchewan, who's a better team, and you put up 16 points. Like you said, one was a pick 6 against Edmonton, not a very good team. If I had to lean anywhere, I'd probably have to lean. I'd feel better about betting on Saskatchewan than I would about betting on Ottawa. But like you said, with the high number, I'll go the under as well. I mean, I don't know what Ottawa offensively can do. So, being the opposite way, it is a lot of points. But if I'm sitting there watching Matt Nichols skip balls all the way down the field off the turf, 2 and out, punt the ball, I'd feel a lot better knowing that I know Saskatchewan can put some points on the board than hoping and praying that Ottawa can. So uh, I probably wouldn't want to bet this game either. I'm also going to be on. I would bet the under, and if I had to bet the game, I would take Saskatchewan. I mean, I hate to be the chalk guy and take a bunch of favorites, but I think right now there's a bit of a distinction in this league of what teams are ready to play and which teams aren't.
And Saskatchewan's been good. Saskatchewan's looked real good in 2 games. There's no question. And yeah, they had a second half to forget against BC where they completely let the Lions back into the game. But I think I think you focus more, Sandy, on Saskatchewan's first half in that game. When that game was 0-0, and that's when the game was there, they were ready and they buried BC early in that game. And then they had the huge lead. And you know what it's like. We're not machines. We're not robots. We're not computers. We're humans.
Yep.
And when you have a big lead, sometimes you just let the foot off the gas pedal, not quite as focused coming out of halftime with a huge lead. You think, hey, we've won this game already. And that's what happened. So I don't really penalize Saskatchewan for that BC second half. First half, they were good. The second game, they played a complete game start to finish against, sadly, unfortunately for us, against our Ticats last week.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, they look great on both sides of the ball. Fajardo, I only had him as like the 6th best quarterback in the CFL coming into this year. I might have to rethink that because I had the likes of Matt Nichols ahead of him because I thought Matt Nichols healthy is still a little bit better than Fajardo. Maybe not the case. I might want to
Yeah,
have a
we're on the
mulligan on
same
that
page
one.
there. Yeah, I didn't have him ranked that. I didn't think he was that fantastic either, but he played great against. I watched that game start to finish, and Saskatchewan looked red. And in my opinion, Hamilton's a better team than Ottawa, and so I don't expect Ottawa to do much better than what Hamilton did last week.
Yeah, absolutely. That's the CFL. We're going to wrap up the show in the next 5-10 minutes. We appreciate having Sandy Beveridge joining us here on the show today. Great guest, great insight, and a fellow Hamilton man and a Hamilton Ticat fan. You can't have it any better than that, in my opinion. Let's get some NFL thoughts from you, Sandy. We've got NFL just 3 weeks from tonight. We've got the season opener between the Dallas Cowboys and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and now we're starting to wonder if we'll even, never mind seeing Dak Prescott in the preseason, we're even wondering now if we're even going to see him week 1, Thursday night, in 3 weeks against the Bucs in that season opener. So that's going to be an interesting thing to keep an eye on. But lots of fascinating. I'll just be brief here in the fact that the NFC is going to be, I think there's wide open on both conferences, to be honest with you. I think there's a bunch of teams that could be your Super Bowl representative in the NFC, and I think you could say that about the AFC. When I look at the NFC, the Rams have a shot. Obviously Green Bay with Rodgers back there. I rule out anybody in the NFC East because that division stinks. Nobody's going to the Super Bowl from that division. It's just done. They're just playing to get into the playoffs. That's their Super Bowl. Get into the playoffs from a crap-ass division. There's your Super Bowl right there.
Well, we're going to get along real well with opinions like that. I love it.
Yeah, exactly. And same with the AFC South. I mean, does anybody buy into an AFC South team winning the AFC this year? Houston, Jacksonville, Indy and Tennessee are mediocre. You look at some of these other the AFC West and the NFC West. The West is where it's at this year in both conferences. The AFC West, Kansas City, I'll tell you right now, Sandy, obviously we know how good they are with Patrick Mahomes. They're going to be good again this year. But the Chargers are going to be much better. I'm high on the Chargers. Denver, if they can get anything from Locke or Bridgewater, whoever the quarterback is going to be for them, they got loaded talent on offense this year. Cortland Sutton back at receiver from injury from last year. Von Miller and Bradley Chubb are healthy. Bring in Kyle Fuller in the secondary. That Broncos team is really, really talented. They get even decent quarterback play. They can have a really good season. That AFC West is tough. NFC West, have at it. Who can go and win that division? They're all good. 49ers, Rams. I think Seattle takes a step back, but they're always scary as long as they have Russell Wilson at quarterback. And Arizona, I think, takes a step forward. It's fascinating. It's going to be a fun year ahead. AFC North, I'm high on the Browns. Sandy, what do you think of NFL just overall? Teams you like, teams you don't like?
Yeah, well, full disclosure, I'm a big 49ers fan, born and raised Niners. So the NFC West is a tough division this year. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if any one of those teams won that division. I wouldn't be surprised if any one of those teams went to the Super Bowl, to be perfectly honest with you. I think the Rams getting Stafford was a great move for them. 49ers 2 years ago in the Super Bowl. Um, Seahawks with Russell Wilson, like you said, and then all the moves that Arizona's made to get better. So I do follow that division quite closely. That's going to be a real dogfight, if you want to say it like that. Like they're going to be going hard. So I think any team out of that division, provided that they're not totally beat up during the regular season, could go to the Super Bowl. I agree with you in the NFC East. I call it the least. They're terrible. I don't think any of those teams should even get into the playoffs. Packers, I think Rodgers has got something to prove with everything that happened this offseason. I definitely think that could be one of those I'll win it in spite ice type of moves. He does seem to hold grudges like that. And then when you go and look at the NFC South, I mean, I'm off Tom Brady, right? So 7 times, and he's lost another 3, so he's Super Bowl 10 in his career. I think they're the class of that division for sure. I don't know how they don't win that division with Drew Brees being gone out of New Orleans now. I think it's kind of the Bucks' easy way in this year. And then the AFC, being kind of in the Hamilton area now, Ontario, Buffalo Bills right across the border. I really like Josh Allen and what he's been able to do and taking a step forward and leading that team. Stephon Diggs down there. They got a really good defense as well. I think the Bills are going to be tough to beat in that East. And, they could make a run maybe to the Super Bowl this year. NFC North or AFC North, of course, as always. That one's always just like the black and blue division, I think the Browns are finally in the mix to say that, like, we're the guys now. Pittsburgh, will Ben Roethlisberger stay healthy? Will Lamar Jackson stay healthy? And Baltimore, will he stop getting COVID for the, 3rd or 4th time? Is he able to stay on the field? So, yeah, I agree with you on the Browns. The AFC West, I mean, the Chiefs they've been to the Super Bowl 2 years in a row now. I would not be surprised to see them a 3rd time. But I'm kind of hoping to see, the Browns or the Bills be the kind of the up-and-coming team and take that next step, and maybe they make it to the Super Bowl. A little something different.
Yeah, it is a little something different. In the last couple of years, we've had better years from the Browns and the Bills, and for so long, really since the 90s, we were talking about the Browns and the Bills as just terrible franchises, just falling short, missing the playoffs for a lot of years. And now here they are, 2 of the best teams in the AFC, and I've got futures on both of them to win the Super Bowl, the Bills and the Browns. I bet the Bills to win the AFC East. I laid a little price. I got it at -120. It's up to -150. So there's people liking the Bills to win that division. I like the Browns in the division more because I think they can run the football, and that's the key. The O-line's so much better last year. Will be good again this year. They can run the football, take pressure off Baker Mayfield. When Baker's just has a good ground game to rely on, which he does with Chubb and Hunt, that's when he's definitely a better quarterback. And that defense with Denzel Ward in the secondary will be healthy. That defensive front looks really, really good. Just a very good, well-rounded team. And I just trust them more than the Ravens. Now, I like the Ravens. The Ravens are a good team. They'll be there too, but Lamar Jackson, he's got to improve his accuracy. I think that the running game's good. The O-line's a little more susceptible, I think, this year. Defense, I think there could be some issues defensively for the first time in a while for the Ravens. Maybe not quite that Ravens defense we've seen in years past. So keep an eye on that. So fascinating division, though, too. Pittsburgh, what to make of the Steelers here? The steel town of we got a little connection here to Pittsburgh because same colors, black and yellow, black and gold, steel town connection, Hamilton to Pittsburgh. But the Steelers, to me, and every bettor and handicapper I talk to, because that's the nice thing in the business, is I got lots of good contacts, people that have been doing this for 30, 40 years, even longer than I have as a full-time sports bettor and handicapper. There are so many wide-ranging opinions, Sandy, on Pittsburgh. There's some people that think they're a playoff team, maybe win the division, still maybe even be a dark horse Super Bowl contender this year. And then there's some people that think this is where the wheels fall off, the Pittsburgh Steelers, and they're not even a playoff team this year. And Ben retires and goes quietly into the night after this season. So there is a wide range of opinion when it comes to the Steelers. In fact, of all teams in the NFL this year, Sandy, going into the year, I don't know if I've seen so many different pro Pittsburgh opinions and negative Pittsburgh opinions across the board. It really is split what people think of their upside and their ceiling this year.
I don't have a dog in that fight, win that division, although I love watching all the games that are always played in that division. They're always entertaining. Everyone plays hard and well. It always seems it's a rivalry game and everyone's up for it. It's a Sunday nighter. It's a Monday nighter. I guess my one question to you will be, we've talked about everyone else in that division. What about Cincy and Joe Burrow? Do you think they can make a step, or are they just outclassed?
They're not going to be a playoff team, but they're going to be a point spread team. They are going to be an ATS team. You're going to be able to make money and back this team, getting points in a lot of games because they've got a quarterback that competes, the quarterback that is already, what he did last year before he got injured was spectacular. He really did. He willed that team to having a chance to win so many games early. I remember the Browns game against the Bengals earlier in the year. Browns kept scoring, and the Bengals couldn't stop the Browns. And there's Joe Burrow, just keeps on coming back and getting the ball in the end zone and making plays on the throwing the football down the field, running with it as well because he's got that ability. The only thing that concerns me is Burrow coming off the significant injury. It was a gruesome injury. Is that mobility, that full range of athleticism and mobility for Burrow going to be there this year? But this, to me, when it comes to Cincinnati, more than anything, it's not a team I love from a win total perspective or their futures, but ATS, point spreads week to week. It would not surprise me of 17-game regular season this year. I'll say that Cincinnati is a 10-7 against the spread team. Not straight up, but 10-7 against the spread or better this year. I think they could really they could really make bettors some money this year because that's the kind of team they're going to be. The back door is going to always be open too with a guy like Joe Burrow. They've just got to backdoor Burrow. They've already given him that for a couple of the games.
There we go.
For a couple of the games they had last year. So, and that defense is the key. I'm hearing they're a little bit better. As long as they're just a little bit better on the defensive side of the football. The O-line was a disaster last year. I hear they're a little bit better. As long as both of those areas improve, I think Cincinnati's a profitable point spread team in 2021. That's how I see it with them.
Nice. Yeah, I like that.
All right. Awesome stuff. Great NFL talk with Sandy. We'll wrap up the show. Before we wrap it up, best bet, CFL best bet, of course. We always end the show with a best bet. I'm making mine Montreal, and I'm going to go money line on them, -160. You got to lay a little price at DraftKings and Bet Online, and other books have it as -160 to -165 with Montreal on the money line. I'd just rather that than lay the 3. Just ask them to win the game. I think they will do that. So Montreal Alouettes, -160 against Calgary on Friday night. That is going to be my best bet for week 3 in the CFL here on the Ian Cameron's Football Frenzy Show. Sandy, your first time as a guest, and you were a great guest, and your first chance to give us a CFL best bet. If you had to make one, what would it be?
Well, I'm going to take the under in the game tonight, BC Edmonton.
All right, there we go. BC Edmonton under the total, which is, and you're getting a good number. Really good number.
47.5, is that what it is right currently? Or
48. It's up to 48 in most spots. So you're getting the best of the number. Like if you like the under and you like Sandy's opinion there on the total, you're getting the best of the number now because it's 48. It opened 45.5, 46, and I bet the over at 46. So if we get 47 points, everybody's happy tonight. That's what that means. Let's go 24-23. Let's go. Let's get that final score tonight. And hopefully 24, it doesn't matter, 24-23, because that means Edmonton's covering, regardless of who wins the game. So that would be perfect. That would be the ultimate, and we both would win that total as well, which would be awesome. So there you go. Edmonton, BC, under 48. Sandy's best bet for CFL Week 3. That'll wrap up this edition of Ian Cameron's Football Frenzy. Thanks to our special guest, Sandy Beveridge, for joining us on the show this week. We'll have him back definitely on the show later in the season. Thanks to everyone in the chat for joining us. We appreciate you guys tuning in. Hit the like button. Hit the subscribe button if you like the show. Pub Sports Radio. Make sure you support the channel. For Sandy Beveridge, our special guest this week, I'm Ian Cameron. Have a great week. Enjoy the games and good luck. And we'll see you again next Thursday, 1 p.m. Eastern, for another edition of Ian Cameron's Football Frenzy right here on Pub Sports Radio.